We can get a given product according to its ID, but what if we provide an invalid number? Well, we don't get anything returned within our JSON object that we're returning to our client. So a better approach, instead of checking to see if it's an empty object when we make our request, is to add some error handling back within our routes file. So if we can't find a product, if not product, then what we're going to do is we're going to return early, and we're going to, instead of having a 200 status code, we're going to have a 404 not found status code. And instead of having a product, we're going to have an error message. So the correct approach is the following. If we don't have a product, then we want to throw an error with the message no product found for ID, and then we can insert the product ID that we get from our params. And then to catch this error, we can include all of this code within a try catch. So we'll add a try catch, and we'll receive the error in the catch area. So this is where we include our 404 response, and within our JSON, we'll include a message that's set to error.message, in other words, what we passed to our created error, as well as the status code. We'll include a status code of 404. So let's save this and try this back on our product page. We'll make a request using useQuery, and we'll call the first argument, which we know has to be the key. We can call it a couple of things. So for that, we can use an array to first call it product. This is a query for a given product, but it's also a query based off of a certain product ID. That's why we want to include both of these elements within an array instead of just, for example, the key product. And then to fetch this data, we'll again use Axios. So we'll say Axios /API, make a GET request to /API /products, and then insert the product ID at the end of the endpoint. And of course use then to get back res.data.product if this resolves successfully. So once again, we'll get back our data, and we can call this directly as product, but also we're going to get isLoading to check to see if we're in the process of loading this data, as well as a couple more values. We also have isError and error. IsError is going to tell us if we have an error, and then error is going to be the error data itself from our request. So if we don't have any data yet, if we're still loading, we're going to use isLoading and return a loading spinner. I'm going to call this loading spinner. And if there's an error, if isError, then we're going to return the error here, just within a plain div. Otherwise, let's for now just log our product. So let's try this out. I'm going to open up my console, and we're going to head to localhost 3000. And let's first try to visit a product successfully. We'll click a link, and yes, we get our data that we can, in the next step, include in our template here in our actual product component. But if we change the ID that we're sending in our request, we can see we get our loading spinner, and we're getting this 404 not found error. Now, we're getting this objects are not valid as a React child error, and that's because in our div, we actually need to get the error message. If we want, we can log what this is. I'll log this in the console. We'll run this again. So we get an error, request failed with status code 404, and we do in fact see it up here, which is what we want. But we can make this look a lot nicer, or at least a little bit nicer. We can use the styling library that I've applied to each one of these elements to all of our elements within our application called Tailwind CSS. We can use Tailwind to apply some utility classes to give our error message a better look. We can give it the color text red and the value 500. We can make it bold with font bold, the font bold class. And we can align it to the middle of the page with text center and MX auto to make the margin set to auto on both sides of the div. So, and additionally we can say maybe, oops, error.message. So great. We can see our error handling works when we don't have a particular resource, when we're not getting our product. However, when we have an actual product to view, that data is loaded successfully, and in the next video we'll take a look at how to display all this product data directly within the product page.